Hello and welcome. This is Otter here, and I'm going to be showcasing two battles. The first of which is on Amera Swamps, and with myself as the Dark Elves and MR Defender as the Lizardman. On the far side is Hefische, Hefische, and playing the Vampire Counts, and then Prison Mike playing the Vampire Coast. So, basic strategy, Queen Bess, gonna chuck artillery death on everything, and then that's buffed with the Gunnery White and Silostra Deerfin, who has the or Direfin, I don't know how you want to pronounce it, but she has she has a buff that basically increases the accuracy of whatever range unit you want. So probably she's going to be putting that on Queen Bess, and then the Gunnery White can also just increase accuracy with ballistics calibration. Where is it? Yeah, enchanted ballistics, so plus 60% accuracy, plus 20 reload skill, and replenish ammunition. So big stuff out of there. They also have a Necrofex Colossus, and basically the Vampire Counts, they were going to try and just muck everything up and stall the advance of any invading armies. And to do that, they had Manfred von Karstein on a Terrorgeist, and he has access to zombie summons, right? So those are going to be dropping all over the map on the approach and just trying to disrupt us from getting into combat. So with that said, let's get right into it. So we did have a little bit of an advantage on this map in the sense that there was a large forested area, which meant we had maybe a little bit of cover from some of the missile fire that the Vampire Coast could put at us, because some of those shots are going to be going into the trees. So initial blasts are coming in here, and they are absolutely wrecking the Sisters of Slaughter. So that's an $1,100 unit that has just been taken down to about half health off of the approach. So that's basically 500 G's worth of gold right off that straight volley. So that one was a little bit of a miss, so that's good. But definitely this is why it's so dangerous, I think, to take high cost infantry against the Vampire Coast, because you know, with one shot you can easily lose like half of a unit. So I brought some Manticores and some Harpies to try and take this fight against the Manfred and his Terrorgeist. And I think if you mix Manticores in with the Harpies can kind of soak damage and prevent the Manticore from getting isolated, and they can dish out quite a bit of pain on a Terrorgeist and or a Lord, who usually would be pretty strong and able to take on the Manticores in a straight one-on-one. So I was very happy with the damage that was going on there. I did put an Occam's Mindraiser on both of these units to help sort of tip the balance in our favor, because I knew that taking out that mobility and the Lord would be really the key to winning this fight. So MR Defender, he doesn't waste any time. He brings Masmundi right into the teeth of the giants, let's say, but because he's there, he's going to get a lot of attention. So deck gunners, there's a Necrofex Colossus here. Silostra Deerfin pops the Rotting Prometheans to pin him in place. So far we're unable to actually push into like the sweet spot here right next to Queen Bess, who is still online and firing in big shots into our infantry here. But you see the tree did protect us there from one of the shots, so that was very nice. Manfred von Karstein is getting a little bit low here from the pressure of the Pharaoh Manticore and the Harpies, but he's able to pop Invocation of Nehek, and he's basically pulled all of my units into these deck droppers with handguns. And the Harpies normally will be able to beat the deck droppers with handguns in combat, but the trouble is that these are basically unbreakable units, right? So because they're undead, they have to like disintegrate. So it would have taken time to sort of cut through them. And I wanted to keep the focus on the Terrorgeist and Manfred, but they've been sort of able to elude me. Manfred does do a dive bomb here. It's some Bleak Swords and try to break them up. And meanwhile, I do have Crone Hellebron, who is kind of doing some AoE degen here on this pocket and trying to get onto the Claw of Nagash and stop this from just basically degenning out what's left of our elite forces here, the Temple Guards, some Croxagors. My Bleak Swords, and I had some Sisters of Slaughter here. I mean, they basically fled for the hills from the barrage of Queen Bess. And these Bleak Swords here and Sisters of Slaughter will probably not be here for much longer. There's a Skink Chief who's pushed in and made his way onto the Necrofex Colossus, so that's a pretty nice spot for him to be in. But Manfred von Karstein has come over, and he's doing his best to sort of return the favor to that Skink Chief, and it's going to be a tough situation for him. But then Manfred recognizes there's a Bastillodon with Revivification, so he tries to take that offline first, because if he just went straight for the Skink Chief, then the Skink Chief would basically just continue to receive heals from the Bastillodon, and that would be no dice. Manfred is getting low, though, and approaching his healing cap, and so things are starting to get a little bit tough for him. But Mazda Mundi has been taking a lot of fire here from these 3 units of deck droppers, and because the Revivification Crystal just popped its buff on the Skink Chief, it no longer has any more buffs to use. Spirit Leech has been cast on this Revivification Crystal, I believe, and yeah, and so really the effort has been going to taking that offline, and that's definitely the right choice here. Meanwhile, the troops in the woods have finished off the last bit of Graveguard, so they're going to start pushing in and making their way over to Manfred. I do have 1 Manticore that is still left, and the Revivification, the two that are fleeing should hopefully rally, although the Terrorgeist is going to try and chase them off of the map, so that's a little bit tough there. Queen Bess still online, so they've done an amazing job of just protecting it and screening it out. The 2 Manticores have found their way onto Manfred von Karstein now that the Terrorgeist is chasing off the 2 Revivification Crystals. I send in the Sorceress just to try and pin it and get an extra charge, and here comes Queen Hellebrand on her way trying to get him, but he does take off into the air, but fortunately the Manticore is able to finish the job and take him out of the fight. So now it's just up to Silostra Deerfin to hold down the fort with her Damn Knights Errant, a couple of polearms, what's left of these deck droppers with the very little ammo, and some disintegrating Crypt Horrors. But the Mazda Mundi has been taken out of the fight. The Revivification Crystals are fleeing. I do send over the 2 Manticores to try and fight this Terrorgeist, and they do some pretty good damage onto it. And Crone Hellebrand is trying desperately to get over here as well. The Temple Guards did get onto it, but we were just really trying to save that Revivification Crystal, because if we can keep it online, that can really turn the balance in the fight. So not too much going on over on the other side. We are chasing the Terrorgeist, but it is a little bit faster than us with a speed of 92 versus this Pharaoh Manticore speed of 85. So unfortunately, I didn't have anything that could keep up with it. And in this case, I was thinking it might have been better to have Marathi rather than Crone Hellebrand. And the problem with Crone Hellebrand here is I think I mixed up her loadout. Normally I take Gaze of Cain instead of Witch Brew, so I would have been able to cut through that the front line of Graveguard much faster had I taken Gaze of Cain, and it was a total mistake that I took Witch Brew there. And because I knew all the high value targets were really in the air, then having basically an Assassin Lord on the ground wasn't very helpful. In the selection screen, I meant to actually pick her on a Manticore, and I think I just made a mistake by not selecting her on the Manticore. So that is something that I would have liked to try. I don't know how fast she would have been on the Manticore. I'm not sure if it's the same speed as this one here with the 85, but that's definitely something I would have liked to play around with. So my last few rallied units here are basically dead. They've just been shot up by these deck droppers with handguns. And so here comes the final push. Balance bar very heavy in our opponent's favor. It looks like the Terrorgeist did come in here again to attack the Revivification Crystal. I'm not sure why. Maybe I missed something over there, or Haifishi saw something that I didn't. But anyways, just a little bit of regrouping here as we try and push in for the final assault. A little fast forward action here. The big ship of death comes down here, and it's going to fire some cannonballs do a lot of damage here. But it is a thirsty Winds of Magic spell, so I'm not sure how much Winds of Magic Silostra Deerfin has left, but she's come in here, leading her pole arms, and just holding down the fort. And because she does have terror, anything that's kind of low on leadership, like these temple guards, can essentially break off. I do think these other units that cause terror themselves are immune to that effect, but certainly losing the temple guards there is very unfortunate for us. So with the balance bar in our opponent's favor, we were thinking, okay, what assets do we have, and how can we sort of maybe pull this back a little bit? So really, we have the mobility advantage. Once these deck droppers, I mean, other than these deck droppers, there's nothing that can really pin us in place. So the hope was that maybe we could get onto some high value targets and use the mass of this War Hydra to kind of push our way through things when needed. So I'm going to fast forward here. What you're going to see is basically Crone Hellebron is going to try and sneak around and get onto this Necrofex Colossus, because she is basically a duelist and she wants to be going against these high value targets. What I don't want is for her to be caught up in those zombies Pirate Deckhand mob, especially when she doesn't have, her Gaze of Cain to support the Hydra. So Prison Mike wisely brings over these deck droppers with handguns to try and stall Crone Hellebron and this Hydra from just annihilating this Necrofex Colossus, but they won't have too much success there because eventually this Necrofex Colossus is going to drop. Crone Hellebron does have Heroic Killing Blow, and she does have the Cursed Blade. So when she's winning a combat like that, there is going to be some degen effects kicking in, and that is going to tilt the balance a little bit there. So MR Defender coming over here with his Rallied Revivification Crystal and the Temple Guards. So this is really coming down to the very end. The Hydra's leadership is so low and about to break, and I'm desperately trying to pull him out of these zombie pirate deckhands mobs with Silostra Deerfin. She does still have 300 weapon strength and 44 melee attacks, so she's not meant as a duelist, but with the support of her minions, she can certainly put a hurt down. So the deck droppers, now that they're out of ammo, Prison Mike definitely sends them into Crone Hellebron again, just trying to stall her out and prevent her from cycle charging Silostra Deerfin. But they are going to have a hard time, and they're down to only 7 unit models now, and Hellebron is still online fairly healthy. But one thing she'll have to watch out for here is this Gunnery White has missile damage of 434, and he's going to start taking pot shots in at both the War Hydra and at Crone Hellebron, who is very low now. So a little bit of a scary situation there. The Temple Guards get mucked up by another unit of these deck droppers, and this is tough because I want Crone Hellebron to be able to fight with the support of these Temple Guard, and I think the Temple Guard can probably kick the crap out of these deck droppers, and I don't think they should necessarily be chasing the Gunnery Right. Gunnery Right has a speed of 38. The Temple Guards have a speed of 31. So the Gunnery Right, in theory, can kite these Temple Guards forever. And if you look at these Zombie Pirate Deckhand mob, they're at leadership of 3, right? A leadership of 9. The Temple Guards would be able to disintegrate them and get them off the map, and then we could have isolated Silostra Deerfin. And in isolation, without the Zombie Pirate Deckhand mobs, like the War Hydra and Crone Hellebron could completely erase Silostra Deerfin. And the only way that they can win is essentially if Silostra Deerfin keeps coming back again and again into these Zombie Pirate Deckhand mob. But yeah, the Gunnery White, he is going to take some shots again on Crone Hellebron whenever he has the chance. So, I have to give credit to Prison Mike for some amazing micro here. Like, he's able to keep chasing me with these Zombie Pirate Deckhand mob and harassing me with these deck droppers. And, it seems like it's taking a lot of time to really return fire on them. With the cycle charging, they kind of muck you up, and then when you turn to fight them, he pulls them away. So it was really frustrating to kind of take them offline. But the War Hydra does have high mass, and because we were running out of real estate, I did have to push them just right through the Zombie Pirate Deckhand mob. They were moving at the time, so I knew because they were not braced, I would be able to just walk through them. But that left Crone Hellebron a little bit isolated here, so very tough situation for me here. But I am able to micro my way out of the deck droppers with handguns just in the nick of time, so I have a little bit of life left here. So a bit of a misplay here by me. I accidentally cast the Flame Breath on these deck droppers with handguns, and I meant to cast it on the pole arms, so it was just a misclick there. If I could have hit the pole arms with the Fire Breath, they would have probably just crumbled right off the map, and again I would have been able to isolate the high value targets, right? But because they're still here, you know, these here, I still can't just fully engage these heroes, so it's so frustrating. And so I think here finally we get the matchup we want. The Temple Guards come into the Zombie Pirate Deckhand mob. The Hydra is here, and I do have, you know, support, but because Crone Hellebron's been taking snipes from the Gunnery White, she's so low, 572 health. I had to peel her off into the woods and just get out of range. The Temple Guard, recognizing that, they do shift off onto the Gunnery White, but that means that the polearm are alive again, which is so frustrating. And now that the Gunnery White is tied up in the Temple Guard, I'm like, okay, I can bring Hellebron out here again. I send her into the fight, but it's getting really tough right now because the Temple Guard are low, and Silostra and the Gunnery White are able to double team the Temple Guard, and the Hydra, because it got isolated in the Zombie Pirate Deckhand mob with Silostra and no Hellebron support, it's basically gonna take off to the hills. And with the Hydra gone, it would have been game over. But it does rally. Hellebron comes in here. She's gonna try and use her Cursed Blade maybe to just degen these last Deckhand mob off the map. So finally I get them off the map, and Hellebron gets a charge in here. Did you see how much damage that did? Absolutely huge on the Gunnery Right. So I'm like, okay, maybe. The deck droppers are crumbling. They're so low. We do have Temple Guard. The Hydras come back. Balance bar is shifting, but Hellebron gets hit in the back from Silostra Deerfin, and she flees. And I'm like, no, at the moment of victory, we just like failed to find like the clutches of defeat. And so these last two deck droppers and Silostra Deerfin are taking on Temple Guard and the Hydra. So the Hydra is down to 858 health. It does have support of the Temple Guard. And Crone Hellebron rallies, so I'm like, okay, here we go, we got this. But no, the War Hydra, it breaks off of Silostra Deerfin, even though it still had 800 health, and then it caused an insta-rout with Hellebron and the Hydra. So I was like, fuck, like, man, we had that game. I don't know what happened there. There's no way that Silostra Deerfin should have been able to just instantly chain route Hellebron plus the Hydra plus an entire unit of Temple Guard. So something weird, I think, with the balance bar happened there. So that was sort of a frustrating end to what was otherwise like a very, very close fight. But I have to, you know, give credit to Prison Mike and Hafishi for a super well played game. And it was just so fun. So I'm going to go right into the follow-up battle that we had with them. We had many battles against them, and because me and MR Defender were so close, we're like, man, there's got to be a solution. If we can just tweak one or two things in our build, we can get it. And it did take us many tries, but I want to show you sort of what was able to work for us a little bit better in this matchup. So this one was on Doomglades, and our opponents didn't change their loadout at all. But I changed my loadout. I brought Marathi on a Pegasus, and then I I think an extra Hydra, and I swapped my front line up a bit. I wanted to go with some cheaper infantry, so I got some regular Black Ark Corsairs with hand bows. I figured these would trade well with Zombie Pirate Deckhand Mob, and with the pole arms, they'd be able to shoot a little bit if Manfred or the Terrorgeist wanted to get into my back line a little bit. And because they're only 750 gold, I mean, it's still not cheap, and it's certainly more expensive than Bleak Swords. But because they're only 750 gold, it's not like Sisters of Slaughter where one shot hitting them is going to take like 500 gold worth of resources off of the map for me. So I was a little bit more willing to lose them in this fight. An MR Defender, he's basically taken an aerial goon squad. So he took 1, 2, 3 units of Pegasus Knights, 2 units of Royal Hippogriff Knights, and King Leon Kerr. And basically our strategy was, you know what, we're going to dominate the aerial battle here. We're going to take out Manfred, we're going to take out the Terror guys, and we're going to take out these deck droppers. And if we can clear that off the map, we have the mobility advantage, we can choose our engagements, and then we can sort of dictate the flow of the battle. We don't have to worry about Manfred just summoning zombies on our approach and us getting blasted to hell with Queen Bess. So there is a little bit of balling up of units here, which is not ideal. The Dread Spears are slower than the Black Ark Corsairs with handbows. So I had the Dread Spears deployed in front of the Black Ark Corsairs with handbows, hoping that the initial shots would go into the Dread Spears instead of the Black Ark Corsairs with handbows. But our opponent was very smart, and they were able to sort of avoid that and just focus on the Black Ark Corsairs with handbills. But here comes the aerial death squad, and they're making their way onto the Terrorgeist and Manfred. So Manfred didn't have the support of any Vargeist, and he didn't have the support of any Fellbats, which made it easy for us to get onto him and basically goon him out. And if I were Hafishi, I certainly would have maybe dropped the Terrorgeist for 1 unit of Vargeist to sort of work as a bodyguard for Manfred, and then a couple of Fellbats to absorb some damage so he can't get isolated like this. And look at how much damage Manfred is taking. So that is very tough for him. Marathi did drop a Soul Blade, which dropped his armor further, and also dropped the weapon damage of the Terrorgeist. So he's decided to kite. King Leon Kerr is going to give chase. Very nice, not letting him escape. I would have sent 1 unit of Pegasus Knights to maintain the pursuit, but MR Defender has decided to just keep them on the Terrorgeist and finish him off, because the Terrorgeist does have regen. And Marathi there on the Pegasus is also there, so that's going to be good for him. I want to comment on one thing here. So I made a bit of a stupid play here. I sent the Hydras onto the flank. And the Hydras, I mean, the reason you sometimes want to send them onto the flank is because they're Hydra Breath. If they can shoot the Hydra Breath like across the unit, you get a lot more value than if you shoot the Hydra Breath like into the center of the unit. You're going to hit more unit models. And I did see the Gunnery White exposed here, so I was like, okay, I can just basically goon out the Gunnery White with the 2 Hydras. But the trouble with that is the Hydras, if they take damage, you want them to like rally, heal up, and come back. And I have them so close to the edge of the map, right? So if they were going to waver and break, they were going to go right off the edge of the map, and that's something that I definitely did not want happening to my $2,000 units. So I think if you're going to bring Hydras, I think usually you're better probably to just send them into the middle, and then that way if they flee, they're going to flee like away from the enemy and not off the map, and you'll get a second chance with them basically. So lesson learned there. But Manfred now is looking like in really tough shape. The Royal Hippogriffs are chasing, Marathi is chasing, King Leon Kerr is chasing. Manfred is very fast, speed of 90, but Leon Kerr has a speed of 100, Marathi has a speed of I think 105, and the Hippogriffs, they're not quite as fast, so they're kind of in the rear, but the Pegasus Knights have a speed of 105, so them plus Marathi and Leon Kerr are going to be able to catch up with Manfred and basically take him offline. But credit to Haishi, he knew he was going to lose Manfred, so essentially what he did is he just pulled so many resources like away from the fight, which kind of like delayed us being able to use them here later. On the other hand, the deck gunners were not able to shoot them, and I do use Harpies whenever possible to sort of muck up those missile units and give these Corsairs a chance to do some work on the front line. So in terms of front line, MR Defender did not bring a lot of high value units. He brought the Battle Pilgrims, which I recommended because they have a very good melee attack, which can cut through these zombie pirate deckhand mobs pretty quickly. And they also have pretty good leadership, which is very important when all of these units cause fear and you've probably taken damage from artillery on the approach. You want your units to be able to stay and fight. And the Battle Pilgrims, unlike, men-at-arms and other units like that, they can fight more or less without hero support or without the need of a battle reliquary because they do have that 80 leadership. So it's very nice to see them get in here and just basically pressure that front line and create more opportunities for us. So there's a big ball of Graveguard here. They are coming in here and they've basically taken one of the Hydras off the map, and with the support of the Claw of Nagash, they're going to take the second Hydra off of the map as well. I did try and pull them away, but Haifishi, he's a smart guy. He brought these Crypt Horrors, and the Crypt Horrors have a high mass, and they also have poison, so they are a very strong counter to units like Hydras, who can basically... Otherwise, they would have been able to have their way with the Claw of Nagash and the Graveguard. So I lost 2 Hydras there. That's 4k worth of resources, including one regiment of Renown Hydra, the Chilisanta. So that's a huge loss for me. Balance Bar dead even. Like, they've lost Manfred. But they're about to lose their Necrofex Colossus with the Sword of Corone here. But on the other hand, we've lost our Hydras, so it's going to come into like basically a death ball versus whatever Dark Elf infantry I have here, and our 2 legendary lords, King Leon Kerr and Marathi. And there is this one Damsel of Life, very sneakily hiding in the woods, just giving a little bit of heals where she can to keep our units online. So Necrofex Colossus, even though it's very low, the Rotting Promethean summon was able to basically save him, and Silostra Deerfin is going to stay close to the Necrofex Colossus and protect it if needed. Between the 2 of them, they do have a decent damage output. Weapon strength of 412 on the Necrofex Colossus, weapon strength of 300 on Silostra Deerfin, so you do have to think twice if you're going to go into that pocket and challenge them. Marathi is dropping a huge Soul Stealer on all of these bald units here, so that's going to help pump her health up a little bit, but it's also going to do a lot of damage to all of these units. Soul Stealer is intended mostly as a single entity type of spell, but if you do find a big ball of units, definitely don't hesitate to use it. It will do some damage. So the ball moves over here to help out the Necrofex and Silostra Deerfin, but that left an opportunity for us to isolate the Claw of Nagash. There is Overwatch coming in from these Black Ark Corsairs who were able to shoot in on the Claw of Nagash, which was very fortunate for us. The Dread Spears and the Zombie Pirates with the Polearms are going to have kind of a grind out fight here, but that is one that is eventually going to tip in my favor, even though they will hold for a long time. I do send in the Black Ark Corsairs with handbows just to sort of clean this up a little bit faster. They do have a good melee attack of 33 and a decent weapon strength of 28, which is a little bit more than the Dread Spears. So together with Marathi, again, she's going to be debuffing the melee attack down to 0. I was confident that we could win this fight without taking too much damage in return. So Silostra Deerfin is here at the middle of this big blob, but I do have another Soul Stealer going down from Marathi, and that degen is just, it's slowly adding up, If you're going to ball up like that, it's so nice to have a good Vortex spell to sort of counter that. So the Ship of Death has made another appearance here. It's going to go in on these Hippogriff Knights, but I do recognize it. I pull out the Dread Spears just in the deck of time, and then I cycle them back onto the Zombie Pirate deckhand mob. So a little bit of a swing and a miss there for the Vampire Coast. So tough break for Prison Mike. But yeah, for the first time, like, the balance bar is shifting in our favor. Another Sword of Corona is going down here on this big death ball, and with the Claw of Nagash out of play here, and with the Terrorgeist and Manfred gone, we can sort of dictate the terms of the engagement now. The Crypt Horrors are down to only 2 unit models, and with the Crypt Horrors gone, the Damn Knight's Errant's gone, the Rotting Promethean's gone, there's no mobility to hold us in pace. And we can cycle charge and degen them out. Salastra Deerfin does get isolated here from her little death ball from Leon Kerr, the hippos, or sorry, Peg Knights there, and are these the hippos in the back? Yeah, the hippos in the back. So they're basically able to goon her out, and Marathi, not wanting to miss out on a good gooning party, comes in here on Salastra Deerfin and also gives her a little bit of a touch. So I'm going to hit the fast forward button now, and we'll go to the end screen. So what are my thoughts from this battle and the one previous to it? Basically, I think that if you want to counter this build, you need to go with an aerial goon squad. So I think Marathi on the Pegasus is probably the best choice because she's fast and she can pin, excuse me, Manfred and the Terrorgeist. And the Harpies with Marathi are no joke. I mean, maybe Marathi with the Harpies would lose to Manfred and the Terrorgeist, but we did have the support of MR Defender, who had Leon Kerr, which is a perfect choice for, I think, fighting the Vampire Coast and for this type of aerial goon squad, because he is also quite fast. He does a lot of damage, and he has resistance to missiles. So if the Vampire Coast want to shoot Leon Kerr, he can just pop his missile resist, and you don't have to worry about him getting picked off. So I think the Vampire Coast would have had to try to focus down the Pegasus Knights first, and or the Hippogriff Knights. The battle programs did very, very well, so I was glad we brought them. And the Damsel of Life, I mean, if you bring her to pump heals into Leon Kerr, and the Hippogriff Knights, I mean, that's always a great, great choice. So very happy with that. If I was Hefishi, like I said, I would have probably brought some Fellbats. I would have probably brought maybe one unit of Vargeist. I think a Vargeist and Fellbat combination instead of the Terrorgeist to support Manfred would have been much more effective. And then maybe I would have dropped, one unit of Graveguard to support that. And then Prison Mike, like he played his build very, very well, so you can't really knock him for too much. I think maybe a little bit more mobility could have been helpful for him, but Silostra does have some mobility summons, so I don't think that was too much of the problem. Maybe like going against this, some just regular cannons would have been a counter. Like if I had gone Empire, let's say, instead of Dark Elves, I probably could have countered this build with just some regular cannons, but I didn't want to play Empire. I like the Dark Elves, and it was a good mental challenge to try and come up with a counter from the Dark Elf point of view. So I think that worked okay. And having a little bit of forest to camp the Damsel of Life was kind of nice. And Dark Elves don't have access to a ton of heals, so again, if needed, let's say Leon Kerr for whatever reason died, it's nice to have the Damsel of Life who can also pump some heals into, let's say, Marathi or the Hydras or whatever else. So all that said, fun game, and thanks for tuning in. Bye.